Thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. We're going to be talking about the innovation in agriculture through technical education in urban ag specifically. My name is Brian. I represent half of my team. We've half 0.5, I guess you could say, 3/4 at this point. I'm the program director for the electrical trades program, as well as the co-program director for the controlled environment ag program. On behalf of my colleague, Dr. Murray, who's the program director for the environmental engineering program, as well as my co-director in the controlled environment ag program, welcome to the time that I have with you guys today. So my presentation is going to be based off of kind of what Western Dakota Tech is doing to innovate in the ag industry. It's going to be kind of a walkthrough of what we currently are doing and where we plan to go with our plans in the future. I'm a college instructor, so if you guys have any questions as we go through, please feel free to shout them out. We have a small room, so we'll probably have some time if you have any questions as we go through. But the kind of the overarching idea that this presentation is going to be following is kind of some questions that we were asked several years ago now. The first question is, how can we make our community better? And that's really, when we think about urban agriculture and the work that we can do and innovation inside of this space, this is really one of the first questions that Western Dakota takes into consideration when we follow this path out. And then furthermore, what can we do to make our community better and teach the students that come to our college the skills they need in their careers? And that is really the key thing that I and my colleague Dr. Murray focus on when we look at the urban ag and the controlled environment ag industry. And so why do we care? This is a little bit of a dated map now. This was, I think, produced in around early 2018. But this map right here represents Rapid City. And I believe my arrow will come in. There it is. Okay, that's our campus right there. That's the Western Dakota Tech campus in Rapid City. And what the dots you see represent, the red ones represent all of the homes inside of Rapid City limits that currently use local food resources. So each one of those dots is a home that has shared their address to be able to have access to our local food banks. And then the yellow dots represent all of the homes outside of Rapid City limits that utilize those food banks. Now, I don't remember the number. I think it was somewhere around 9,000 in town and another 2,000 or 3,000 outside of town. But since then, we've gone through a global pandemic, and we all know that number has more than likely increased. So this further kind of sets the stage for me to be able to answer that question that I started with in what can we do to make our community better. Just to kind of further this point, these are a little bit more updated maps that really kind of illustrate the need for urban agriculture and innovations in this space in specifically Rapid City, but communities all throughout the world, really. So just some interesting graphics there. This is actually produced by our Rapid City, the city of Rapid City, and so we work out in our neighborhood with a local food security group to kind of identify the problem and start to come up with innovative solutions to get there. So now that we've kind of established the reason, we come back around to the question again: how can we make our community better? How can we use the skills? And our solution is controlled environment ag, and specifically targeting around this project that we've been working on over the last couple of years. It's education and training in sustainability and development, or EAT South Dakota is what we like to call it. So what is the first initial point or entry into that space? Well, several years ago, before my colleague Dr. Murray started, I tiptoed into the world of controlled environment agriculture. As I mentioned, I am the program director for the electrical program. My professional career has come from the industrial automation world, so I've spent almost 20 years inside of industry learning all of the latest and greatest technology about automation, lighting control, process control. I've worked in factories all over the United States and outside of the country, as well as different industrial environments, that I was able to amass an immense amount of information in industrial control and then apply that at our school specifically to the controlled environment ag space. And so at the beginning of our entry into this world, we are a technical college, so it is a little bit outside of the norm for us to be looking at an agricultural, at least this type of an agricultural endeavor. It fit really well with the skills that I needed to teach my students anyway. And so we tiptoed into this world with a project based on aquaponics. And aquaponics is the combination of aquaculture, what we have here, and hydroponics, which many of you know is a soilless growing method that we use to be able to produce many different types of produce in our labs right now. And so a little overview on the aquaculture. So our space has gone through several innovations since we originally started. There's a couple of our beautiful fish that we've had over the last couple of years. I got another little batch coming up on the next slide that we'll talk about. But this is kind of the origins of where this started, and really the way that we looked at our entry into this world is we wanted to provide an opportunity for students that wanted to learn about the aquaculture piece of aquaponics, or growing fish for food. We wanted to provide them with an opportunity to compare and contrast some different items. So we have the blue tanks up here. These are a very good representation of what's currently being marketed in the aquaculture industry. They're made by a company, Pentair. They're one of the world's largest manufacturers of aquaculture equipment. If you're in that world, you're probably very familiar with Pentair. And so what we did was we purchased these, set them up, and had some fish going in there. And then we integrated our environmental engineering program into this to get really good readings on, really good and thorough and accurate readings on what the water quality is inside of those spaces for the fish that we were trying to grow. So we spent a lot of time collecting data, manipulating the systems to increase or decrease increase the goods, decrease the bads. And then once we established that data set, what we did was we went old school. We went back to basics and started leaning into teaching the kids the skills that they needed to have while we were there. And we just went and we bought stock tanks. So they're equivalent gallons between the two. And then this one right here particularly has a pond pump. But what we have right here in the back is we have our engineering solution to what we had purchased from Pentair here. This was our engineering solution on filtering the water that we would normally be filtering through something that we purchased. So this right here, this two-thing setup here was about $12,000. This is about $400, maybe $450, and we were able to achieve equivalent water quality and really prove to the students that it was possible for them to be able to get into this market space with very little capital investment on the front end. Now there were pros and cons. We had to do a lot of hands-on work where all we had to do was buy it and put it together. But once again, that's kind of the point of those students being there, is to be able to learn those skills, learn how to build, learn how to even 3D model. We'll talk about that here in a little while. But get into the nitty-gritty of essentially doing the same thing that we paid for right here for a fraction of the cost. So this is also, I tossed this picture in, this is our koi tank. That's where I go when it's been a stressful day and just watch the fish swim around and get a little zen moment. But here is where we currently are. So I'll be quiet for a second and let the water flop around. Yeah, so right now what I'm showing you, this is just a video that I took last week. I'll be quiet while this plays here real quick.
Our Cody Dentist has more on how the release will help further research and benefit people. Dakota Tech began raising these fish earlier.
Sorry if the sound kind of sucks.
I learned how to raise bluegill and catfish, as well as to get fishermen appropriately sized fish to catch.
This fits really well into what we're doing, our roles and our mission at the college. Also, it's a really neat story to talk about how education, funding for education directly affects the community.
By tagging and releasing fish, students.
This is one of my students, Justin. They're tagging some channel catfish that we raised.
For those who didn't know about the college's ecological program,
big focus is in that is the maintenance of our natural resource and resource use efficiency.
There's a just incentive to eat these fish either. Catching tagfish can help pay for school as well.
Dakota Tech is offering a 250.
Yeah, we tossed a little scholarship to try to track to see if the fish that we raised and we released out into the stream here, we were able to try to track the life cycle, but nobody called to claim the scholarship. So I think we're pretty much through the bulk of what I wanted you guys to see on this. So the ultimate goal that I wanted to provide you guys with this little shot that we took here is to continue to develop and build community and build relationships. Over the last 2 years, we've established a partnership with the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. And so what we have right here in these two pictures, we're currently growing our livestock. Our livestock are growing from about this big to about 12 inches, and each one of these tanks on the side here are our largemouth bass tanks, right? That we have going. So the partnership that we have with Game Fish and Parks is our students are able to utilize their experts. That we have some amazing people in South Dakota in the fisheries world. They're able to, our students are able to collaborate with those folks, tag our catfish, and then they have access to those industry experts. And then what Game Fish and Parks has is they have an intern pipeline and another place to be able to use to grow fish that we're all going to get to share in our lakes and streams as we move forward in our production. So pretty neat deal there. We have 500 largemouth bass that we're growing. The ones in this tank are about 8 inches now. We hope to have them to about 12 inches by the end of the year. I think that we will definitely exceed that on this tank. That one's growing a little bit slower, but water's just a little bit cooler over there. And so we've talked a lot so far about the fish side of things and far as what we do, but now let's talk about the plant side a little bit. So we've constructed a lab on campus. This is our hydroponics lab, where we separate the fish out of the aquaponics cycle, and then we separate the plant out of the aquaponics cycle. And here's a really good breakdown of the different sort of growing methods that we have. I have one other image that I'll show you on the next one where we bring it all together. But here we have several examples of the different growing methods we are. Here's our propagation station is what I call it. It's in our plant lab, but right there here we have our lettuce racks, our lettuce being started, so we can get it moving into the racks that we have on the next page here. But we have some nutrient film technique we play around with a little bit right here at the end, where we're putting some actual fruiting plants in the downstream of the nutrient film technique there to further collect that nutrient solution, and then some potted plants. But basically this is just a room for our students to get to spend a lot of time with Dr. Murray talking about plant physiology. This is a great spot for me to nerd out as well, because I get to come in here and make all of the different lighting and control packages work, and my students do as well. But you'll notice here that we have some pink light in the background, and this light seems a little bit different than we would normally see inside of a classroom space, and that's specific to the plant. A lot of what we do is we focus on the controllability or the changing of the space that we have available to work to be able to provide the maximum opportunity for plant growth, and that's what we're representing here. This is just a classroom that I have on campus, about half the size of this room that we're in right now. And at one time, when I had this full of the vertical growing towers that we have right there, I could produce about 4,600 plants in about this space just from the vertical towers and what we had going on. So it was a really intense space. We've calmed back a little bit down on the towers and got some nutrient film technique stuff going on in there right now. But this is constantly active. I was mentioning earlier, my team is doing a little consulting and growing some natural veg for a hospital that they're building in the region. So we're in this is all full of potted plants that we're going to be planting out for one of our community members in the near future. So this looks quite a bit different than it does now, but it's still a lot of fun to go in there and play around with the plants and get some stuff happening. So here's where we bring it all together. So this is actually the second generation of what we had, and here's our latest generation. aquaponics, we bring all of that together, and I really love this picture too because it shows just how crazy this plant life in this world can go. Here's my world, right, the control world, but I have the lights going on doing different things, but you can see this was at very early in our work in this world, and I was very experimental. So I have some pumpkins and some gourds growing over here, and then those of you who know, these are non-determinate tomatoes that just grow absolutely crazy. There's some beans growing up in the back right there. I got in trouble from my scientist for being very experimental at that time, so now we're a little bit more focused on what it is that we should be doing. But it was early on, and I just wanted to see what would grow. So we've successfully grown about 60 different species in the different aquaponics systems that we've had over the years. We follow the engineering design process. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but we like to build things, and engineering design process is very similar to the scientific method, but the difference is that we don't hypothesize, we build. So we've built several of these, and each one has been a little bit cooler, had some other innovations to it. So this one right here was primarily focused on growing our plants in a media bed. Well, we like that, but the problem with the media bed is that if you didn't filter your water very well before it got to the media bed, eventually the water got filled up with undesirable particulates, and you had to clean that out. So on the next version of the system, we integrated some of the nutrient film technique stuff that we had been using in our plant lab, as well as a combination. This is a really neat deal. This is a combination of deep water culture. If you're in the hydroponics world, you've probably heard of that before, but also ebb and flow or flood and drain aquaponics or hydroponics in here as well. So the control system introduces new water into both of these systems at a predetermined time based off of what we determine to be the accurate time for the plant life and then to maintain health of the fish. And then it'll only run when it needs to. That's another kind of important piece of the control, is that there are, at night specifically, when we have the off cycle, there are times when these things are producing but not consuming at all. So we really put a lot of time into the design and the engineering to allow the plant to be able to function, and at certain points we're actually not consuming any energy at all. It's just allowed to grow and do its thing. Nighttime specifically, or when we go into the dark cycle for the plants. So lots of fun was had in here. Lots of different students having their hands on this. This right here was a pretty big innovation. We also talk about like the actual human resource. So this right here is about 1,000 gallon. It's like probably 4 feet by about 14 feet. And I lifted the water up to where this right here is about waist high, and we specifically did that. There's brackets underneath here, so there's only about that much water that these lettuce rafts are living on. But we specifically did that because we know that there are humans that are going to be harvesting this. So even in the engineering and the design process, we knew that we didn't want to have people reaching down here to pick up these lettuce rafts that are probably going to weigh at least 36 pounds from the product, not counting the roots or the water that was still stuck on the roots, lifting them up and spinning them onto a cart to be able to go for harvest. So in order to kind of eliminate that ergonomics, we just said, well, why don't we just lift the water? And that's what we did. We also have a bunch of welders at our school, so the welders helped us out with the brackets as well. So next we talk about a little bit about the engineering and the design process. So one really cool thing about how Western Dakota is doing this is it isn't just a silo of the students in the controlled environment ag program, or the students in the electrical program, or the students in the environmental engineering program. We have students from several programs across campus that help us with all of these designs and the innovation that we've gotten from the designs. So the first one that I want to mention, this is our architectural and engineering program. So it's been really fun to work with these folks over the last several years. It's actually hilarious. So I do a lot of the design and the engineering just in my head, and my colleague Todd Anderson is the program director of this program. He says, if you can just get it to me on a napkin, I'll bring it into this. And boy, I have tested his skills. So this is a couple of designs. We actually have this one currently producing at a middle school in Rapid City. This one, we had our students actually design we had them do a competition a couple of years ago where they had a 10-foot cube, and their task was to create as much produce in a 10-foot cube as they could, and this was one of the one of the really good solutions that they had for that project. But all of these projects come in kind of as a conversation, and we, when we think about our engineering process, we focus on the life cycle, or the product that we're trying to produce, whether that be the fish side or the plant side. And then we identify what the best growing conditions for that plant or that fish are, and then we kind of integrate that into the design discussion that we have. And when we bring in the architecture and engineering students into that, this is the kind of amazing stuff that gets produced. And then it's a lot easier for so it's a great project for the students in this program, but it's even better for the students that are in the other programs. Number one, to be able to work with the people that are actually able to give them the thing that they're thinking of, but then actually be able to see this and go build it is another really big important thing. So I've mentioned a lot so far about how we work with the environmental engineering program, and so this is a very key component into everything that we do, because these are the students that are going to be going out to your NRCSs and your soil conservation folks that you have out in the hallway here today, and actually be doing that work, understanding what the soil composition is or the water quality of our lakes and streams. These are the students that are going to be out there doing that. And for me, from my perspective as the program director for the electrical program, and of course for the controlled environment ag, these are the folks that are going to essentially be my customers. Ultimately, in the controlled environment ag spot, my customer is the plant and the fish that I'm trying to grow, or the actual hoof livestock that we're trying to grow. But initially, to get to that spot, I have to have the data from these folks, and it's really important for my students and the students from the A&E program, the design program, to be able to talk with these people and have the student themselves tell us what qualities in the environment that we need to be able to provide. And then it's up to us to design the system and then engineer it and have it working as well. But a couple of nice little pictures of I love fish. Where else can you go to work and have 700 pets, right? So that's a picture of early on of our goldfish and koi tank. And then we've had a group of blue tilapia. I bought a breeding colony of blue tilapia in 2018, and I'm on my 4th generation of blue tilapia hatchlings that we've run through the programs over the last couple of years. So real happy with those guys. This is my nerd world here. So I'm real happy about what we've been able to accomplish with this as well. And so when I think about this really lends itself to control. There isn't a thing that we have in our world today that the electrical industry doesn't touch. Furthermore, we're getting to a point where automation is going to be taking over many of the jobs that we do. There isn't labor that isn't able to be automated. And when we were originally kind of seeing what the marketplace in this was, one of the big things that we always heard from producers, like major producers in the controlled environment ag space, and even down to local folks, is that we just have such a hard time with the human resource. We have a hard time getting people. Well, that's kind of my world, is that how do I not necessarily eliminate the person, but how do I change the job that the person is doing and make automation get a little bit more involved with it. So this is the actual control that we designed for the picture a couple of slides ago that's at the middle school. It's East Middle School in Rapid City. This is some of the complex control logic that our students are learning, and then a picture of the actual installation. The students did a really nice job on that, so I always like to give them some props. Other programs. So you'll see next slide, you'll see our next big project. We have our construction program. They have been instrumental in all of the crazy things that we have going on. The poor program director for the construction program sees me with my tools walking down the hall, and he almost just follows me so he can fix what I mess up. I also do a lot of the plumbing, so our plumbing program director is always kind of keeping his eye on me as well. As long as it doesn't leak on the floor, he's okay. And then we do a lot of structural stuff. As I mentioned earlier, we raised 1,000 gallons up 2 feet off of the ground, where that's not really a thing that we have seen that happens a lot. So our welding team, and then the controlled environment ag program really started as a opportunity for students to get a background in plant biology and animal biology, livestock biology, as well as have some skills in the business world to see if they choose to start a greenhouse or get into the controlled environment ag industry. So we provide them with a little bit of a business background as well with our business programs on campus. And then of course, soft skills everybody needs, so general education is a big piece of that. So over the last few years, this is a very exciting slide for me because we have been under construction of a really giant project, and we're going to get to see another little video here. It's a good video of the finished product there. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dakota, for your great coverage. So anyway, the cool part about this is that, as I mentioned before, all of these different programs coming together to be able to produce something. So this project started with a napkin drawing with our team. That's the original that our architecture and engineering program brought together. These renderings right here, we went through and this is based off of the greenhouse in the snow. I don't know if you guys have heard about that from Russ Finch down in Alliance, Nebraska. Essentially, you buy the metal and you buy the Lexan, and then you're responsible for doing everything else. So I really love to highlight these two pictures as we're watching that video, because this is what it looked like when it was in the digital world. And then the students and staff at Western Dakota Tech brought it from that into what we watched in the video, and it's now currently it's not producing as much as we would like it to, but it is capable of being used to grow stuff, and that'll be where we move the plants from the plant lab out into there here in just a couple of weeks once the weather kind of stabilizes. But the thing that I love to mention about this is that this is an entirely student and faculty based project that we got a grant from, I think it was the USDA specialty crop grant, to be able to afford to build this. And then just through the work of the construction, plumbing, computer-aided design at the time, that was the name of the designers, and the electrical program, we were able to bring this into existence. And now we're using it to try to make some of those dots disappear as we move forward. So you guys have probably seen a lot of different critters happening so far. And one of the things that we learned early on, especially indoors, is that when we go to start trying to grow fruiting crops, we need to be very careful on who's the pollinators. And at the beginning, it was me, and I'm not a very good bee. So over the last couple of years, we have been integrating a apiary on campus. There's me doing another news story with our master beekeeper right there. We found the queen. That's what we were getting ready to find that day. But we have, I think there's it peaks and valleys on how many. We had up to 40 hives on campus for a while, and then the president was like, hey, we're starting to see a lot of bees in the HVAC equipment. Could you guys maybe decrease the amount of hives that you have on there? And we're like, yep, we don't want to be responsible for damaging the HVAC equipment to the server room. So I think we're down to like less than 10 now, maybe between 5 and 8 somewhere. But this is a part of the training that we offer, not only for our students that are full-time, but we also do community outreach training. Our master beekeeper, Tim Moran, does several beekeeping classes a year, anywhere from intermediate to beginner, intermediate, and now I think he's journeyman master level beekeeping classes. But this is us using the stuff that we have right on campus to kind of show the community what they can do, and how this will kind of work its way into our greenhouse and our growing is these are the regular hives that we have right now, but through our work with Tim, we've been able to secure an observation hive, which is essentially a training device that you can put a smaller colony of bees in, and you're actually able to kind of control them a little bit more. And Tim always laughs when he describes the observation hive and how we plan to integrate it into our greenhouse. And what he always says is the one good thing that's the difference between teenagers and bees is that bees are always home at night. So all of the bees will come back to the hive when we go into a dark setting. So we're able to capture all of the bees in our observation hive and move them inside and outside of the greenhouse in somewhat of a controlled way to be able to, at certain times of our production cycle, be able to bring our honeybees in and do some pollinating for us. So this has been a really fun and engaging program, our project, not only for me, as you can tell, but just being able to bring our students in on this and truly highlight the necessity and the importance of keeping this stuff going. So we transition into community. Oh, go ahead.
Have you had a lot of success with honeybees in your greenhouse at this point? You might want to try bumblebees.
Bumblebees. Yep. Yep.
The honeybees, from my experience with working in high tunnels and stuff, they don't navigate well.
Yeah.
Because they navigate off the sun and they can't see the sun.
Yep.
So they just don't really do the same job.
Yep. That was we felt that.
Yeah. So you can
Yep.
actually get bumblebee hives.
Yep.
And those tend to be a lot more.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely, probably what we will move to. The problem that we have is we don't like it that they die. Yeah. They have a lifespan, and
You're an agriculture.
you saw I have 700 fish. I have 700 fish. I know. It's you're right.
You gotta use the
I-
computer that does the job.
I know.
Expect that it has a life cycle just like we do.
I agree. Yep, I agree. Not going to deny. All right, so continuing on, how do we change our community? And we're in the education world, and so we've been thinking about this for a long time, and we ended up securing another little bit of grant funding. And this is the actual. There's the design that our students ripped out, and here is the actual thing that we have at East Middle School right now. This is a project that we put together called Planting the Pond. There's me talking with a bunch of middle schoolers. I think I'm giving them a little break. Ah, yes, I remember exactly this one. So tilapia are really cool in that they're a mouth bearer. When they go through their spawn cycle, the male will herd a female into an enclosed area. She'll lay her eggs in the enclosed area, and he'll come through and do his thing, and then the mom will actually come back in, collect the eggs, and she'll agitate the eggs until they hatch. And so that's what I was explaining to the students right there. It's a survival mechanism that allows the tilapia to not have to compete with more tilapia if they find themselves in a water quality situation where they're not really sure they're going to make it. They'll just swallow the eggs and use those nutrients and not have to compete. See, I do kill stuff.
And it seems that a honeybee hive doesn't die, but remember, honeybees only have a lifespan of 6 to 8 weeks, so they're dying too. You just have new babies coming along.
When you're right, you're right, and this is one of those times. Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right. Yep.
So do you guys do the maintenance on this too?
So, good question. We've actually kind of designed this to be almost maintenance free. So the only thing that we really have to do is solid separation, fish poop. That's really the main thing. And when I designed this, I specifically put that valve there. So the maintenance guy's got to come by once in a while, just crack that valve, and I'll spare you the physics and the nerdiness about why this is really awesome. But essentially what will happen is all of the solids from what we suck up and specifically suck up from the fish end up in a little pocket down here at the bottom of our swirl filter, and then we just crack that valve for a little bit of time, and it dumps right down into a 5-gallon bucket. So this is an innovation that we learned early on, in that if I remove the solids before they go into the grow beds, I don't have to remove the solids from the grow beds, because that's no fun. But yeah, so very, very low maintenance. And one of the really awesome things about aquaponics that we have found, and it has been consistent over the years that we've done it, water changes. There's a term that we use called liquid gold, and it's when our water gets to be almost an amber color. It's like all of the bacteria is balanced, the nutrient production from the fish is balanced, and the plants are absorbing it properly. On the one that we had, the one that I lifted up, the deep water culture one, I only do 2 water changes in that a year. We consistently add water over time, just because the natural transpiration of the plant, as well as, we minimize the amount of evaporation that we can have in there, but we do have to have some air transfer just to be able to oxygenate the water for the fish as well as the plant roots. But really the thing that we've leaned hard on is designing out those maintenance issues. So when we are the technical advisors, but the majority of the work that gets done on that is the teachers and the students there. So yeah, good question. We don't have a lot of maintenance there. So.
Is this something that someone could purchase?
Yeah. Yep. It's not ready now, but we have all of the designs. I think the design might be available. I believe that part of what we had committed to do with this grant is to provide that for people. So if you're interested in getting the design, I think we would be, as far as I know, I think we'd be very happy to lend that out. These are just some tanks that we bought from heavygrowers.com. This is another aquarium from Pentair. You wouldn't need to necessarily use this one. Actually, I would, if I had to redo it again, I would probably go to those round tanks, because the square tanks aren't as good to get the sediment off of the bottom. The round tanks are much better for that. But we chose this one specifically so the students could look at the cool fish swimming around. So it draws them in, as you can see. We were talking about the tilapia right there. So and then. No, it's not novel. It's very, our use of it in this application is kind of unique, but swirl filtering, solid separation is a big deal in the aquaculture industry. It's absolutely essential, and without that, then your water waste in aquaculture is so large that it's almost not economically sound to do that. So it's really removing this, and not only the fish waste, but not all of the food gets consumed, and so over time, the natural breakdown of the food as well as the fish waste, it does some really bad stuff to water quality. So, yep, solid separator is an essential piece, and without it, we would be in rough shape. So it was a good innovation that we brought along in our design.
Are you harvesting the tilapia?
We are. Yep, we are. I don't like to do that either. I'm a meat goat producer as well in my side life, so I'm very familiar with that. But you just, it's like your puppies, right? They come up and eat right out of my hand. So, yeah. Okay, community impact. So we've had a lot of really great community partners over the years. Right now we're on the second year of a 3-year grant that we're working. We're getting ready next week to deliver a therapy system to Wellfully, a premier adolescent care downtown Rapid City that we're hoping that can stimulate conversation for youth that are in a point in their life where they're contemplating suicide. The moving water and the cyclical life cycle nature of aquaponic system and the movement of life and the design that we put into it, we're hoping can really help those students recognize that there is a cycle with everything. We've put a lot of work and a lot of heart into that one, and we're very excited to have those folks have that and to see that work really deliver for those people that need it the most. Meals on Wheels is one that we will start at the end of this year. We'll start with the design process. They have a grocery store it was once a grocery store on the south part of Rapid there that they have turned into their operation facility that will be going in and doing an assessment over and actually building them a system. And then since we've begun our actual production, we have donated the majority of what we have produced to our local Pay What You Can cafe, Fork Reel. All of these are great partners. Fork Reel has been amazing. They're actually going to be the recipient of a system. They're in the transition from their current location to a more permanent location downtown, a little bit closer to where their impact is needed. So we're really excited to be able to partner with them as well. And not only that, but we've had the opportunity of late, and I think I'm going to chat about the global impact that we've been able to give here in just a second as I continue on my path to community collaboration. So we've done a lot of work, and this is another therapy organization that we have in Rapid, Live Move Bee Farms. That we have kind of helped foster them into an era where they're able to still produce, but their focus was more on using the greenhouse as a therapy mechanism for students with autism. So we've kind of helped foster them into a manageable area, and my colleague Dr. Murray sits on their board of directors. We've done a lot of work with the farmers market, specifically like with facilities at this point, and then in the near future, as our production internally ramps up, we hope to be wholesaler for leafy greens. That'll be a good thing for our students to work into the actual business side and help kind of recoup a little bit of our cost for that. And then of course the game, fish, and parks, I talked a little bit about them. That's everybody. You know, we're putting the resources that the state funds provide us and provide the game, fish, and parks right back into the community by way of catchable fish species for the community. Those fish that we released earlier in the slideshow, those were just right on the west side of Rapid City and Rapid Creek. This is a really cool one too. So a few years ago, we were awarded a grant from the Environmental Protection Agency. My colleague, Dr. Murray, had some really awesome work that she did when she was in college about runoff in lakes and streams from traditional ag and how that has some downstream effects. And we had noticed, and she had noticed, that there isn't any real solid regulations on the amount of nutrient that wastewater treatment facilities are allowed to be able to drop into our lakes and streams. That's also causing some pretty significant downstream effects with algal blooms in the Gulf of Mexico and whatnot. And so we provided an innovative solution to study what the effects of bringing in treated wastewater with a very high nutrient content, bringing it into an aquaponic system, or in this case, we aren't really growing the fish, we are the fish, but running that through the plants and seeing what sort of actual nutrient extraction we can do from the water that's currently being dumped right into our local Rapid Creek. So this is a trailer that we designed. It's twofold. It's a mobile lab for us to be able to get to the place where we want to be able to test the water from, and also bring it to show students what kind of crazy things are possible if you got some grant money and some waste product. So this is a pretty neat one. And so there's often a little bit of thoughts on, man, do I really want to be eating eating plants that we grew off of human waste? And so Dr. Murray's a microbiologist. We were going to do the genetic test to make sure nothing transferred. But in the meantime, we have cattle. So our leafy greens would be getting fed to our animals and having one other level of transfer there. So we have a farm and ranch management program. I always like to throw a little plug in there. So this is right behind our campus in Rapid City. You can see in the background students that want to get into the more traditional ag industries have the opportunity to, that little calf was a real pain in my butt. He could fit right through the fence. So I got to chase him around the streets of Rapid City several times. There's a housing development now that is just kind of right on the backside of where this picture is. So as of this point, we don't have our cattle on campus, but we do have all of that area still penned off for them. And this is ultimately where I'm pretty sure if it wasn't that calf, it was another one. But our meat processing program actually, as a fundraiser, we had raised one of the steers. Gosh dang, my wrist is moving me forward. We had raised one of the steers, and then these are our students that are in our meat processing program, actually walking that critter through the process. And this actually went out to some members of the community as well. So
It's easier to chase that way.
I know, yes, yeah. I wasn't sad to see that one go. Yeah, it was quite.
So what you're saying is your fish are too nice.
They're easier to catch, I would say. But yeah, these are a couple of the students in the meat processing program. We partner with Wall Meats. Anybody in Western South Dakota has probably heard of Wall Meats. Now they're doing some big things in the meat processing industry, and I think they're slated to put in a big facility outside of New Underwood to increase our local production. But a really great collaboration between us and them to get some students in some absolutely needed ag positions. Just some more pictures of the cattle there. These were like really powerful Black Angus. Our farm and ranch management program director, I let a little cat out of the bag there. Our farm and ranch, that guy, his family had a very robust genetics. I don't really know much about that part, but he was very proud of their cattle. So those are just Black Angus. But that was the day that little fart entered into our life right there. So that program only had one faculty member, so I found myself doing a lot of the assistance in that world. So it was a lot of fun. But to lean more toward the global impact, a couple of years ago, I think 21, maybe the summer transitioning between 21 and 22, my colleagues and I were invited to install a controlled environment ag system that was supposed to be in this for a really impoverished community outside of the capital city of San Jose, Costa Rica. And so we, that group of folks right there, went from Rapid City all the way down to Costa Rica with our backpacks, our carry-ons, and our suitcases full of plumbing fittings, and we were able to provide that system right down there that we built. I'm going to just be quiet and kind of let you see a little bit of the process here, but this was a really impactful project for not only the students but the community there. That's loud.
Western Dakota Technical College is currently undertaking through the courses that we offer. We were introduced to members of Rimrock Church who are supporting a group called Innovating Ministries through one of the members of our program's advisory boards. This collaboration led to an opportunity for faculty and students to apply their knowledge to design, build, and commission a controlled environmental agricultural system centered around aquaponics in Costa Rica. 4 faculty members from the Controlled Environment Agriculture, Computer-Aided Design, Environmental Engineering Technician, and Electrical Trades programs, as well as 2 students from the Controlled Environment Agriculture program, were selected to implement a system designed to produce both consumable plants and fish for people in Crace's ministry.
There's my babies.
The focus of the project was to create a system that could engage the community with a people-first mindset, provide an educational resource for the Crace leadership to train their community, and systems that would create revenue and ensure that the community's food security needs were met. The plan for this project is twofold. The first system installed in the summer of 2022 was designed to be an experimental system and to have a very high resource use efficiency, with the intention for the operators to learn what plants grow best, how to properly maintain a fish-healthy ecosystem, how to manage the technical side of the system operation, and to analyze the market for system production based on what's learned from the experimentation. The second phase will be to utilize the knowledge gained to design, build, and commission a commercial-sized system to provide a greater impact on the community. With the first trip successful, there are plans for future study abroad trips. The team met some truly incredible people and will be supporting the Costa Rica system for the foreseeable future. Western Dakota Technical College's sustainability efforts continue to provide pathways for clean, continuous food sources and are eager to collaborate with anyone who is in need.
So that was a really outstanding project that we got to do. I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to keep pushing through here. Last but not least, my talk has talked about innovations in agriculture in the technical education standpoint. And so, kind of in conclusion here, we're not just saying it, we're doing it. So this far picture on the other side here, that's me and a collaboration of my students. In 2018, the summer after we started this project and walking into this world, we were invited to participate in the National Science Foundation Community College Innovation Challenge. And that was held down in Washington, D.C. And initially, we were one of 10 finalists from about 70 to 80 different community colleges throughout the United States that were selected to go and participate in this challenge. And I'm very, very, very proud of the work that those students did, and more importantly, the impact that these systems can have. My students were able to secure the first place in that competition in DC. They met with senators and representatives and key congressional staff. That was during the Trump administration, so wherever that is. That propelled us and helped us recognize that this was a cause worth going after, and that we were on a pretty good a pretty good bead, if you will. Since then, we've been awarded a sustainability award from Rapid City. I think down there, that's a group of people that actually may have designed that 10 by 10 system we looked at earlier, and then we've won some awards for water quality work that we've done in the past as well. And then that's about all. I just want to take some acknowledgments there. You guys are welcome to read that. And then last but not least, I am going to just mention this. This right here, Eduardo Castillo is the gentleman that sought us out to help him down in Costa Rica. And recently he lost a battle with pneumonia. It has hit our team very hard. He was a very key member in his community. And although we didn't get to spend a lot of time together, he was an instrumental part in us being able to provide relief and an impact to those folks down in Costa Rica. So there's the folks that I need to thank. Eduardo is definitely missed. Any questions for the group?
Have you heard of anybody doing any aquaponic systems with shrimp?
I have, and actually the partnership that we have with the Game Fish and Parks has provided insight into that not being a very good business model. And so lots of reasons. I could certainly connect you with him, but Nathan Huntsman is the guy's name. He's one of the chief fish biologists at McNinney Hatchery up in Spearfish. He spent 10 years at a shrimp farm in Texas, and he's happy to be out of it. So that we have been advised against it. It is doable, but it's just not lucrative. So, yeah, you had a question, sir? Is
it legal to raise tilapia in South Dakota?
So there is really no legislative rules as far as I know. We have like the actual manager of the fisheries department is in our lab twice a month and has never said anything about it. The regional manager for the actual like Game Fish and Parks he was the one that tagged our catfish, saw the blue tilapia in the tank. Originally, when we purchased them, I did some initial research to see if there was any laws that I was going to break by getting them in here. The big thing is we just have to control them. They're not allowed to be released, and they have before we have a process that we have to go through to humanely euthanize them before we're able to do our anatomy work. So, yep, nothing as far as I know. Anybody else?
What was your experience raising the largemouth?
It's been really, really great. The only problem that we've had with the largemouth is that they like to jump. So I think we might have had a picture on there with the nets. If our lab manager doesn't remember to get the nets on, we usually end up with a couple on the ground. We have to expand. We're in the midway point. We're transitioning out of that smaller tank area, and that's about we have about 1,200 gallons of aquaculture water that we currently use, and we have plans and funding to move that up to around 12,000 gallons. So we're going to upsize about 10,000. Those two tanks that we have 500 in there. We hope to get up to 6,000 within the next couple of years to really be able to make an impact in the amount that we can produce. So the other economics of largemouth bass, while we're on the topic about it, is that's a really lucrative market for people, specifically farmers and ranchers who have stock dams, to consider. That our colleague at the Game Fish and Park says if you can get a 12-inch bass to the markets in Chicago, it's $13 a piece. And so just those fish that we have right there, somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000, just right there in those two tanks. So for having a stock dam full of largemouth bass that you could also technically consider livestock and be able to market that to where the prices are, that is an entirely innovative way to look at livestock production in South Dakota. So but they're bulletproof. We have students that are responsible, students under the direction of our lab manager that are responsible for maintaining them. And I think so out of the 500 that we started with, we've probably only lost 20 since September. So Yeah, it's been great. Actually, better with bass than catfish, in my opinion. Yep. Okay. Well, if nobody has any other questions, that's all I have. Thank you for your time today.